I do not have enough faith to be an atheist. Research by Jack Sandy. Narration by Kirk Bennett. I do not have enough faith to be an atheist for these reasons: limits of human knowledge, existence of the universe, probability, mutations, and DNA. An atheist asserts there is no God. Of all the knowledge in the universe, how much can an atheist know? Let's say they have a whopping 1% of all knowledge. To know that there is no God, one must have infinite knowledge. What one can be is not an atheist, but an agnostic. An agnostic does not know that God exists. There are two types of agnostics. An ordinary agnostic would say one does not know if God exists. An ornery agnostic would say one cannot know if God exists. An agnostic should at least be willing to look at the evidence of God's existence. So let's begin by exploring the question of origins. There are two possibilities for the existence of the universe. It is either eternal or not eternal. If eternal, then the universe has always existed. What we observe is that eventually all the stars in the universe will die out. Heat and light will cease. The universe is plummeting toward unavoidable extinction. Consider a campfire. You start the fire in the evening, and the next morning it is probably out cold. The universe is headed toward a heat death. There is only a finite amount of energy, so there had to be a starting point for the heat death. If the universe is eternal, then the process of the heat death would have started an eternity ago and would already be completed. It is like filling up your car with gas and starting it an infinitely long time ago. The car would no longer be running. The universe has a limited amount of energy. By going back an infinitely long time in the eternal universe, the universe should have already died in a heat death. Therefore, the universe cannot be eternal. Based on his theory of general relativity, Albert Einstein came to the conclusion that the universe was not eternal, but had a beginning. Alexander Vilenkin said, "Scientists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. If the universe has always existed, then the universe should have died out long ago. Since the universe cannot be eternal, it had to have a beginning. There are two possibilities if the universe had a beginning. The universe came into existence on its own, or the universe was caused by an uncaused cause. If something can come from nothing, then it is incomprehensible why everything doesn't come from nothing. It is like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, only there is no hat, and there is no magician. For a time, there is no rabbit. Then suddenly, a rabbit appears out of nothing. Concluding that the universe came into existence on its own is problematic. An atheist would have to believe the universe's matter was caused by nothing and came from nothing. So the origin of the universe would be nothing, nothing, then poof, something. It is difficult to comprehend the appearance of something from nothing. Science, logic, and reason bring us to conclude that everything with a beginning has a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. If matter is not eternal, then it had to have a created beginning. This implies a creator. There are three primary arguments used against the possibility of a creator. Richard Dawkins' argument is, who designed the designer? This question implies that the designer would have to begin to exist at a point in time. But the designer, as creator of time, is not bound by time and would not need to begin to exist at a point in time. The second argument against a creator is that there was no first cause, but an infinite regress of operating causes. William Lane Craig gives this response. So before the present event could occur, the event immediately prior to it would have to occur. And before that event could occur, the event immediately prior to it would have to occur. And so on ad infinitum. So one gets driven back and back into the infinite past, making it impossible for any event to occur. Thus, if the series of past events were beginningless, the present event could not have occurred. Logically, it is impossible to have an infinite regress of events in time. If there were infinite past events, the present moment would be impossible to happen. Everything visible has a cause, and many causes have other causes. But one cannot have infinite causes. There had to be a first cause which started everything. The third argument against a creator is a self-created universe. This is the position of Daniel Dennett. Thomas Aquinas had a response to the self-caused universe. For a universe to cause itself, it would have to already exist. Then it would give itself existence. It ends up in a vicious cycle. So the universe is eternal, or it came into existence on its own, or it was created by an uncaused cause. Probability points to a God who caused it. Edward Robert Harrison gave a brief history of the universe. Hydrogen is a light, odorless gas which, given enough time, turns into people. There are basic evolutionary premises. Time plus matter plus chance equals life. More advanced life develops through mutations. The fittest survive. Evolution requires natural selection. The words natural selection are a contradiction in terms. Selection implies intelligence, but the process of evolution is, by definition, a blind process. For a cell to exist, it must do at least three things: process energy, collect information, reproduce. It acts like an efficient factory. The components or building blocks for a living cell require the following: amino acids, of which only 20 of the 80 are usable, and they can only be left-handed; protein modules, each of which requires about 100 amino acids in the correct order. There are about 200 protein modules needed. Peptide bonds in specific places in the protein, and a DNA guidance system. All of this is needed to help produce a simple cell. To get an idea of the enormity of a cell just beginning, consider the Sahara Desert. The area covers about the size of the United States. The probability of creating one protein module with 100 amino acids by chance would be the same as a grain of sand being marked and hidden in the Sahara Desert, and a blindfolded person finds that grain on the first try. The process is then repeated 2 more times in succession. The chance of creating the simplest life form is the same as a tornado whirling through a junkyard and accidentally assembling a fully functional Boeing 747. To create this smallest life form, 2,000 independent functional proteins are needed. According to Sir Frederick Hoyle, the probability of this just happening is 1 in 10 to the 40,000th power. That is 1 followed by 40,000 zeros behind it. To show how significant 10 to the 40,000th power is, all the atoms in the universe number only 10 to the 80th power. According to Walter Bradley, nobody can give a reasonable path of how life went unguided from simple chemicals to proteins to basic life forms. The one response that some hold to is that aliens place life on Earth. If life came from space, it just moves the issue to another setting. The same difficulties still exist. Consider the absurdity of the scientist who thinks, if I can just synthesize life here, then I'll have proven that no intelligence was necessary to form life in the beginning. So let's suppose, against all odds, life does happen by chance. Now it has to evolve upward. According to Ernst Mayr, it must not be forgotten that mutation is the ultimate source of all genetic variation found in natural populations and the only new material available for natural selection to work on. But according to Herman J. Muller, the great majority of mutations, certainly well over 99%, are harmful in some way. Along the same lines, Julian Huxley said, "So many mutations are lethal, preventing the organism from living at all, and the great majority of the rest throw the machinery slightly out of gear." Mutations are accidental mistakes which can be caused by radiation or chemicals. Damaging or neutral mutations are accumulating at a faster rate than beneficial mutations. Natural selection cannot remove accumulated damaging mutations quickly enough for evolution to be probable. There are more ways to cripple a cell than to improve it. If mutations further facilitate evolution, shouldn't we encourage all measures which would magnify the rate of mutations? Let's say a good mutation happens. It then needs several other good mutations to make it work. How can typically harmful random mutations, which have no foresight, slowly bring about complex biological structures? These structures have no sustaining functional value until all codependent parts come together. The overwhelming number of harmful mutations accumulate at a faster rate than beneficial mutations. Humans are affected by mutations in various ways. Chemicals entering the body degrade life. Radiation has a negative impact. What is ingested can also do damage. Humanity is devolving rather than evolving. Mutations are not enhancing life. The existence of intelligible information in nature also points to a God. Information is neither energy nor matter. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, searches the universe for patterns of communication indicating intelligent life. Similarly, the information present in DNA indicates an intelligent author who wrote the programs. DNA has a genetic alphabet of 4 letters. An amoeba has as much information as in 1,000 sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica. If a simple message such as "I love you" requires an intelligent being, so must DNA. Ravi Zacharias adds to the dilemma. Even if we were to grant that the genetic code is the result of natural selection, it still needs the machinery to translate the code into function, and this translation itself depends upon components that are themselves the products of translation. This involves the so-called chicken-egg dilemma as to which came first. DNA relies on proteins for its production, and proteins rely on DNA for their production. In summary, concerning religious skepticism, atheism is an impossible stance unless you have infinite knowledge. An honest agnostic would be open to evidence. In summary, concerning the universe isn't eternal, or it would have died of a heat death. The universe couldn't come from nothing. The universe had to be caused by an uncaused cause. In summary of the probability of a creator, natural selection is a contradiction in terms. Cells are complex organisms. The chance of 100 amino acids forming one protein module is the same as a blindfolded man finding one marked grain of sand 3 times in a row in the Sahara, or a tornado in a junkyard accidentally assembling a fully functional Boeing 747. The smallest life needs 2,000 independent functional proteins. The probability of this just happening is 1 in 10 to the 40,000th power. All of the atoms in the universe total only 10 to the 80th power. In summary of mutations, mutation is the ultimate source of all genetic variation. Damaging and neutral mutations are accumulating faster than beneficial mutations. Natural selection is not eliminating damaging mutations fast enough for evolution to be possible. There are more ways to cripple a cell than to improve it. If a good mutation happens, several other good mutations are still needed to make a system work. In summary of DNA, information requires an intelligent author. An amoeba has as much DNA information as 1,000 sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Even if DNA is the result of natural selection, it still needs the machinery to translate the code into function. Chicken-egg dilemma. Which came first? DNA relies on proteins for its production. Proteins rely on DNA for their production. An uncaused cause, as the designer of the universe which transcends space and time, solves all the preceding issues. Antony Flew was one of the better-known advocates of atheism for the last half of the 20th century. Because of evidence, he came to the belief of an intelligent creator of the universe. In 2007, he wrote the book, There Is a God: How the World's Most Notorious Atheist Changed His Mind.